You don't have to work 7 days a week. Sometimes you might have to, and that's just part of the gig. Let's build it. We're sort of trying to build a business that it can work for us, not the other way around. And I think Tom and Sam, and they'll be able to see that it will set them up, in the future if they can get that right in their heads right from the word go. And I suppose that's the other big thing is what we've realised is business has got to be able to pay everyone for what they do, and that's probably the golden rule we've put in place. And if the business can't afford it, well, then we're doing something wrong. We've got to work out how we can go about it, turning that around, or got to go and do something different.
Welcome to the Profitable Farmer podcast, where we share stories and tips to help you run a better farming business and create your very own freedom farm. If you're looking to work smarter and not harder in your farm business, welcome. You're in the right place. G'day everyone. Welcome again to Profitable Farmer. I hope the start to this summer and your harvest season is going well for you. Certainly things are drying out here. I think we haven't quite dusted ourselves off after last year's drought, but hope you're well. Now, one of the things I love to do as we lead up to Christmas is share success stories from across our community. And instead of me doing it this time, I thought that there was an opportunity for you to meet some of the incredible FOA business coaching team. So I've asked our coaches to interview some of their high-performing clients just to share their story and uncover where they've arrived to on their journey with us. And so in this episode, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Marina Gregor to you, who's one of our business coaches. She's been part of our community for 10 years. Her and her husband, Brett, have been through the program. They're part of our alumni. And now Marina is one of our senior coaches. So thank you, Marina, for interviewing Andrew. And Andrew Graham joins us with his wife, Kerry. They farm in southwestern Victoria near Port Fairy. And just to read out a bit of a backstory on Andrew, before starting their own enterprise, Andrew spent more than 15 years managing a large-scale beef and mixed farming operation for a private investor where he learned the discipline, planning and leadership required to run a complex livestock business. 5 years ago, Andrew and Kerry stepped out on their own and began building Hepworth Beef from the ground up. In the early days, Andrew was still working off-farm while buying out family from the home property and slowly building a base where they could grow from. One of the defining moments came when they purchased their first 100 Angus cows near the end of the New South Wales-Queensland drought 5 or 6 years ago. And with the opportunity to place cattle on nearby agistment, Andrew vividly remembers crunching the numbers on the back of an envelope, working out how they could cover the agistment, pay the interest, and still chip away at paying off the cows. That decision sparked the journey they're on today that arrives them to some 2,500 cows today, which is incredible. Over to you, Marina.
Hi, Andrew. It's wonderful to be here with you. How are you going?
Good, thanks, Marina. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. To kick things off, it would be great if you could tell me a bit about you, your family, and where do you farm?
Yeah, we farm in southwest Victoria, a place called Yamba, about 10 k's out of Port Fairy. Of the wife, Kerry, and son, Tom, is 22. He's back on the farm now. And I've got another son, Sam. He's 17. And Millie, but not forget her. She's overseas as a backpacker. She's just turned 20, so and we've just come back from seeing her we went over and spent 3 or 4 weeks over in Europe back in November. So, yeah.
Wow. Amazing. So what do you farm at Port Fairy?
Yeah, so we run predominantly beef cattle, so we've got a mix of a breeding herd and backgrounding cattle. And then we've also got a small containment supplementary fed feedlot, which is a bit of a passion of ours, which is something I always wanted to do. And yeah, sort of slowly, steadily growing that, and that sort of allowed Tom to come back into the business. So it's good.
Amazing. So I first met you 4 years ago about. I'd love to share with the audience about what was life before farm owners, before 2020. What were you doing?
So I think just before I sort of signed up for farm owners, or I was working full time managing a property, or an operations manager for a private investor for a group of properties just up the road, 20 k's. We were milking 3,000 cows across three properties, and yeah, life was pretty full on as an operations manager, and we're just at the stage sort of going through a succession, trying to buy the family farm again, and that was probably what brought me into farm owners. Was so I was going to do that. I wanted to understand a bit more about the business side of things. So since it was actually going to be my own business and not someone else's money.
Excellent. So you mentioned there that you'd come back to succession to try and buy the farm again. Could you mind sharing a bit about your succession journey?
Yeah, so I suppose I left, my father died when I was, 23, 22, I suppose. So the farm was sort of too small to sort of really support two people. So I went away and did a plumbing apprenticeship when I left school. Anyway, he got sick with cancer, so we decided I wanted to come home and learn to farm before he got, we didn't really know what was going to go on. So long story short, we leased a bit of land and expanded the business, but after Dad passed away, we didn't set our business up properly I suppose we never had a succession of what was going to happen with the farm. It was let's just work, get it sorted. Anyway, long story short, it didn't work out. My mother and I sort of decided to go our separate ways. We leased the farm out, and that's how I became to manage the property that I've been operations manager for now. They actually leased the farm 15 years ago. So I ended up working on our own farm, still managing that, but also looking after a group of properties for them as well. And yeah, I've stayed there for 15, 20 years, and probably close to 20 years now. I've sort of been stepping back. We've converted from, we developed a lot of farms into dairy, so sort of traditional sheep beef properties into dairy. So I had a lot of experience that I wouldn't have got if I stayed working, on my own property back through those years in just sort of managing large scale and lots of people. And yeah, that was a fantastic springboard, I suppose, to sort of get myself to where we are today. But I suppose when we started Farm Owners, that just really accelerated the whole process for me to end up where we are.
Yeah, fantastic. So when you reached out to Farm Owners and signed up, what were you looking for? Why did you jump in?
At the time, I remember I saw there was something about, do you want to understand how your business works a bit more? And it was all about cash flow, budgets and all that sort of stuff. And I've always been a bit of a back of the envelope person, and I just wanted to sort of see, how to do it a bit more professional, I suppose, when we started going to be borrowing more money, and just sort of understand how the real economics work. That's sort of why I joined up and did that take control program or whatever it was, and yeah, I really enjoyed it all.
You did. You're a great implementer. I think you'd done all the short courses before you committed to the PM program. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I think it might have been in between when COVID was on, so it was pretty timely.
Yeah, excellent. So if we look back at the time when we first met, I think you were the first. I was a new coach. You were the first one to sign up for an alignment call on the first day of the job. So I was pretty fresh, I'd say, back then. And it's exciting to see how we've both grown together over 4 years. So it'd be funny to look back on that now. How did you find jumping into the PM program? Was it daunting, or were you ready to embrace it all?
It was a bit daunting, stepping out of your comfort zone. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but it might have been the first one we went to. Was up in the Gold Coast, and Kerry came along, and one of the sessions was the mindset stuff with Tracy, and how we all had to go into the room, and everyone. Then she was doing her stuff up on stage, and had everyone down on the floor meditating. And I just remember thinking, if I had known I was going to have to do that, I would not have turned up. We got thrown in the deep end, like, what the hell's going on here, Anyway, it was probably the best thing that I could have ever done, like Kerry's been, banging on to me for years that that's the type of stuff I should be doing. And I had to go away and hear it from someone else to actually do it, But I think that was hitting that was probably the big game changer, which what actually turned myself around, I suppose. And just started embracing that journey of that farm owners program, and everything just sort of followed as we got told. It wasn't sort of bullshit,
I'd love to hear more about the mindset shift that you've had. Like, looking back, what was your mindset like then, 4 years ago?
I suppose for me, it was just, work, probably the role I was was in, was probably pretty busy, and I probably didn't realise it was as busy as what it was until you sort of sit back and look and sort of, start piecing a few things together. Probably pretty lucky I had a very supportive wife that was able to handle, my addiction to work, I suppose. But yeah.
How many hours a week were you working?
There was, there was lots of come home at dark. When you look back at it, it was probably a bit out of control, and I didn't realise it. Anyway, that was life, that was what we're in, and we're working towards a goal. But now I know that, you don't have to go quite as hard as that. Nothing comes easy, but there is probably a bit of a balance, and that's sort of probably something now that we're sort of bringing into our own business, that, you've got to have holidays, you've got to be able to do this, you don't have to work 7 days a week. Sometimes you might have to, and that's just part of the gig. Let's build it. We're sort of trying to build a business that it can work for us, not the other way around. And I think Tom and Sam, and they'll be able to see that it will set them up, in the future, if they can get that right in their heads right from the word go. And I suppose that's the other big thing, is what we've realised is business has got to be able to pay everyone for what they do, and that's probably the golden rule we've put in place. And if the business can't afford it, well, then we're doing something wrong. We've got to work out how we can go about it, turning that around, or got to go and do something different. That's probably comes from the days of, our own family farm, like not sort of, thinking you're building a business and you didn't have to take a realistic wage at the start. And that's probably what sort of caused unnecessary grief, I suppose, which didn't need to happen. Yeah, that's probably number one rule now that we sort of run with is it's got to be a pretty commercial business. Otherwise, yeah, have a look what you're doing and change it.
So we often say you've got to slow down to speed up. Do you think that's what you did?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I was probably burnt out with it. I didn't even realise I was probably burnt out too, or sort of half cooked, I just thought that was normal. Anyway, I suppose in my head I slowed down a bit. If you talk to Kerry, she probably thinks I didn't slow down that much. But
we can get to that later. Once you jumped into the program, I've always viewed you as a great implementer. What was the first thing that you implemented into your business or your personal life?
I think it was just start to take a bit more time for myself. Start to realise that I didn't have to push myself 24 hours a day. Yeah, and start believing in myself that I can run a business on my own, not just run someone else's business. And I think once I started believing that, that's when things started turning around. And I think once I did that, that was also when our succession with my mother and sister, when that actually just happened. Like we've been pushing to make it all happen. And once I started realising that it's probably the problem's me, it's not me the problem, but it was all about, I was thinking, it was poor me or poor something else. I had to do this, do that. Once I let go of that, the flood doors just opened up and we found an excellent facilitator. We've got an excellent outcome, even though it felt like it hurt at the time. And we got told that it's not going to be successful unless it feels a bit unfair. Well, that's how it did roll, but it actually worked out great. Kept a good relationship with my sister and mother, and now we've got Tom coming back onto the farm. And so that's all sort of happened once I let go of trying to push the envelope, So.
Yeah. Tracy often tells us once you let go that the opportunities will come, don't you?
Yeah. And we never get taught that stuff in farming, like, why would you? And there you go, why wouldn't you? And that's what's so lucky for this next generation of people, and you can see farm owners, the groundswell starting to happen now, and the big focus is on that mindset, and it's because it's never been talked about in our industry. But if you're an athlete or you're a doctor or a lawyer, that's all they talk about, Like, it's not all they talk about, but that's a real big part of developing their business or themselves. But in agriculture, it was just sort of, no, that's for someone else. That's not for us. You just got to work,
And now we're seeing more of a holistic view on this, and your leadership's going forward in spades, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Like I suppose I also learnt that even the role that I did managing those farms, started from a farm dry stock manager, then to operations manager, 50 staff, employing people, and then started turning over a lot of people. But when you sit back and you go, well, we never really knew anything about managing people. All we knew about was managing farms and growing grass. And we were starting to lose some good people because, we just didn't have our management style right. That's not a criticism of the business. I was part of that. And it was the realisation that you go, shit, like, it's all about managing people. It's not about how good you can grow grass or you can do this and you can do that. It's just all about managing people. And I suppose that was the big turning point for me, as well as why we've ended up where we are now.
You've had a lot of experience under your belt, Andrew. So if we look at your business, what was it like? What did it look like and feel like when you joined 4 years ago?
I don't think we'd quite signed the deal to say we were going to buy the farm. we're still working through it. I think we had 100 cows. We bought 100 cows at the end of the drought, and we had an opportunity to put them on some adjustment for the owner I was working for. And I can remember saying to Kerry, well, how are we going to pay our adjustment? How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? Just because we were stepping back into buying our own animals and knowing where we want to get to. Anyway, first year went, we never looked back.
So if we jump forward to today, how many stock are you running now? What does your business look like?
Yeah, so I suppose we've got a few more breeder cattle, and we've got a few more background in cattle, and then we've a few on feed. And I suppose now, like you look back and you don't realise what you've done, but, we're probably pushing close to 2,500 cattle we own now across owned country, leased country, and some adjustment country. But it's all those opportunities that have turned up, and the good people that has helped us out, either find those opportunities or take on those opportunities that has allowed us to bring Tom home onto the farm, and then for me to leave the farm for 3 or 4 weeks when we had a lot of cattle coming and going and off the different blocks, to actually go overseas for 4 weeks, and the farm kept on running. That was probably a goal that I thought was never going to happen. I don't know why, because I was used to people working for me. I've been around Australia on a couple of different sort of 6-8 week trips over our journey of working for someone else. But when it came to actually thinking that I could do that for my own business, I just thought, like even all this mindset stuff that we've been doing, you go, well, you still sort of second guess yourself a little bit, but then you go, shit, we can actually do it. Everything's set up now to be able to do that, so it was bloody fantastic. Go and see your daughter having a ball overseas and go and join her, and she wanted to join. She wanted us to join. So that was even better.
That's awesome. Absolute credit that you can have built those family relationships, not only with the older generation like your mum and your sister, but that your kids want to be involved in your business. You're obviously shining a really good light on business and on what farm life can be like. It's because it's not always like that for people growing up on the land, is it?
No, that's right. Well, like Tom, before he came home on the farm, like he was sort of deciding what he wanted to do, because he never really grew up running the farm, like what I probably did. He lived on the farm, but because it was leased out and it wasn't necessarily our farm, he sort of didn't have that same, bond as what I probably would have had when I was growing up. But so he went away and did his surf filming, photography for a couple of years, and then you sort of started getting a bit of interest on the farm, and here he is now running the farm and loving it. And he's, like we said about, we've got to be able to have outside interests other than the farm. Or halfway during the year, he went to Vietnam. Him and his girlfriend went to Vietnam for 3 weeks, and now he's going to go to Japan skiing for 3 weeks over Christmas time. And you go, shit, he should be home working, but that's why we work. When we work, like we make it, we just got to make it that everyone can do what they want to do within reason, and work around it. So Sam's got school holidays. We'll get someone else to give us a hand when we need to, and we'll make it work. To me, that's nirvana. If we can make it work like that, compared to the old way, thinking, well, they've got to be here, 7 days a week and 52 weeks of the year and do it like what I did. Well, that's not how we want to run our business. And that comes from employing people in the business we're managing. People just don't do that anymore. So why expect your own family to do it?
So I understand you've got a family team at this point in time. Do you have an organisational chart in place?
We are getting good people into place. We've just put in a livestock admin person. We're just employing her on a casual basis to do a lot of all our audit stuff, all our reconciliation with livestock movements and all that sort of stuff, and setting up systems so that Tom doesn't have to write up systems how to do stuff. So when the business goes this next step, we'll be already prepared that, there'll be a bit of an outline on how things run rather than just being all in our head. So that's going real well. And then we've got a bookkeeper. So that's, these are all off-site people that only charge for the time that they're working on, and, it's a pretty efficient way of us delegating those tasks. We run pretty lean on labour on the farm, but we have got the support of those people to do those, administration work, which is probably something that I underestimated how much time was actually required to do all that, So. And then we've got another lady that handles all our cash flow budgets and monthly reports and reporting to banks and bluffing the story up to our finances.
You've always been amazing at building out your team. Like, you got clear on where I want to sit and what brings me joy and what I'm good at. And you're like, there's an opportunity here and here to bring in a skilled person to help you. So it
took a little while to find the right people too. Like these people we've probably only settled on them, the last sort of 6 months, and the admin ones probably wouldn't have even been a month, but we've tried similar people in those roles over the last sort of 12 months, 18 months. Yeah, you've just got to realise that you're not the right fit, and there are some bloody good people out there that can do stuff. If that's not really your cup of tea, or, that doesn't row your boat, well, don't worry about doing it. Find someone else to do it, does love doing it, and you focus on doing what you want to do and working out how you're going to pay for it that way.
Absolutely. Always find a way. Excellent. You talked about the growth in your business. In 4 years, it's gone from 100 head to 2,500. So that's 25 times, which is significant. When you were sitting with 100 head, could you see your way on how to get to run the stock that you are now?
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, it was funny. I just thought that was for someone else, not for me.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just thought, well, how the hell will I ever get to do that? Where will I find the finance, or where will I find the land to be able to do that? So, and that's just that part of that whole journey, that once you sort of start to work out what you actually do want to do, and then you start to find the people that you need to make that happen, and those opportunities just start opening up, that you wouldn't believe were possible. I suppose that's been the biggest thing that I've sort of taken out of that whole mindset stuff is, what does actually turn up.
A lot of people join farm owners for clarity and confidence, I think. You've definitely shown a lot of courage in the growth that you've had in yourself and your business. And you're definitely having a good crack.
And I suppose that's the other thing. We love it too. Whatever I've done, whether it's working for someone or whatever, I've always done it because I've loved it. I've never had to do, sure, there's parts of your job you don't want to do, but in general, I love doing what I'm doing. I suppose I've been very lucky that's I've kept on finding something like that, and if I don't like doing what I'm doing, well, then I move on. Now, finishing up with a company I've been for 20 years, it's not as I don't love doing it anymore. It's just now I've got an opportunity to work with my own son, and grow our own business for the next 20 years and sort of capitalise on what I've learnt over those years. So pretty exciting times.
It is, isn't it? So we often talk in farm owners about a clarity action plan, your CAP. When you started, do you remember what your BHAG was? Your big, hairy, audacious goal?
About running heaps of cattle, but I just didn't know how I was going to do it.
I remember over the 3 years of coaching and working with you when your BHAG changed and you brought in a lot more emotion and meaning into why you do what you do. And the future was more around mentoring people and supporting young people to come into ag. How do you think you're living that out now?
Yeah, that's probably been the biggest buzz. Even for the company I was managing, now bringing in 2 new people into the role to manage a couple of farms to sort of, help me leave the company, but also put the right people in place to support the guys that are there as well. Yeah, seeing that all transpire and the calibre of people that we've actually got put in place, that's been pretty amazing. I keep going on about, having Tom back on the farm, but, the same thing, it's not just about us, it's about what, for our business to keep growing, we need more people to come in to support us, which is, that's the bit that I'm really looking forward to is actually bringing someone into our own business that's not family and seeing what we can do with them, like after seeing what, what we've done with other people, what we can actually do for them within our own business. That's the bit that probably I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, excellent. So what's the future look like for you, Andrew?
I think we're just starting.
Are you going to times 25 again?
We're going to have a crack, yeah. It's up to the people, it's up to the boys, or Millie, Millie, it's up to the family, like how hard they want to go. Like I think Kerry and I have got to this stage. We still want to see it keep growing, but we're not going to grow it if we haven't got support of our own family. But, like I suppose we're not also, it doesn't have to be them that grow it either. They don't have to be the ones growing it. I think they're going to be part of it, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be, we just want to introduce other people into our business so that we can all have a bit more balanced life. And as the business grows, doesn't mean we have to work 24 hours a day to keep it going. So,
how many hours a week do you work now, Andrew?
Not many. I get to drive around a lot now. No, look, I don't really count hours. That's my problem. I enjoy doing what I'm doing, and like even for me to be sitting here talking to you and the boys are marking calves, like I'd be, I wouldn't have been able to do that once. I'd just be too busy. Talk to me next week, like where now I feel quite relaxed that they're capable of doing that, and that's funny when I'm used to managing people, but when it's been my own business, it's taken me a fair bit to get my head back around and think like a manager, not just a working owner. So,
how do you feel, like you mentioned that you probably were burnt out 4 years ago? How do you feel now around your personal health and well-being?
Yeah, probably that's why I probably realised that, oh shit, I might have been a bit cooked because now things are pretty clear. Yeah, well, go away on a holiday and just think that's, there's no dramas and everything is still running and I don't have to be the one there making it all work. And I suppose that was about getting those right people into the place, even though they might be on farm, but we've got, our financial side stitched up that someone else can pay the bills, someone else can manage that, and it all just all happens. I think for me to be able to have let go and feel as relaxed like that, that's sort of probably mean I'm sort of there 4 or 5 years ago. There's no way known.
Yeah. But you've learned to let go and build out the team with all their skills and attributes, and there's no looking back, is there?
No. Once it all starts, you always get told in farm owners that once it happens, it happens. To be honest, it does feel as though we were going around in circles a little bit near the end. It was, we're getting a lot of things set up that we weren't quite getting that flywheel effect. And, you hear about this flywheel effect and now that we're actually starting to experience it and go, bloody hell, this is real, Yeah, and it's fun.
Absolutely. So what would you say to someone who's standing where you stood 4 years ago, wondering if they should take the leap?
Just do it. What's the worst can happen? You get off farm and you have a few beers and meet someone different, like, to me, that's where the learning was done. Remember our first night, I had a good night, like it was getting off farm, having a few beers, talking to different people and, just let go and just see where it takes you and just embrace what's around you. And, it's not for everyone, but I haven't heard too many people that have gone into the Farm Owners Academy and go, well, that's shit, I'm not going to go back there again, They all rock out, so excited and reinvigorated that it's actually good, like you go to those deep dives and you see the amount of people there that, talking and, laughing and learn, just learning all this. There's just a big group of farmers getting together. It's bloody unreal. You don't see it too often. And the amount of sharing that goes on that everyone's comfortable to be able to do without sort of getting, there's no one there thinking that they've got a real big farm and they're better than the person that's got a real small farm. Everyone's in there just to help each other or talk with each other, and it's a pretty unique business the way it was set up, type of culture that farmers feel safe to talk to each other without being judged, I suppose. That's, probably when you look back at it, that's probably what it is. You can see, people, there's been some bloody fantastic friendships made in an environment where you didn't even know those people existed.
Absolutely. We're all looking to thrive and not just survive, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right. And, they'd say about it starts from the top. It definitely started from the top with Greg and Deb, but, and that's, but good people attract good people and look at now how the business has grown and the calibre of people that they've got involved in being coaches or being, support people. It doesn't matter what level of person that you talk to, that they might be organising the function or they might be doing this or might be doing that. Everyone is so engaged in helping each other. It's fantastic.
Looking back on the last 4 years and your business and personal growth, what bit are you most proud of?
I've got Tom wanting to work on the farm. For me, that's probably nirvana. And actually, for Kerry, wants Tom to work on the farm too. Like that's been she never not wanted him to work on the farm, but she can now see that what we're doing is actually pretty good.
Definitely something to be proud of. What's one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self on this journey?
Don't work for nothing. Like if you're starting out on a family farm, great. Just make sure that it's all commercial and that you don't have to have a succession resolve, but it's nice to be able to know what's going to happen. And, it's not about, I'm being entitled to this or entitled to that, but don't start out blindly. And it's not as though, I don't think by any means it's, parents do that on purpose. It's just that there was never the education that there is today, that you can actually set up businesses that can be good for the whole family, just not the person that's there working the farm. To me, that succession piece for family businesses is pretty important to talk about as early as you can. And probably that entitlement thing, like if you can get everyone in your family to understand that the farm's a farm, it can only produce X, but everyone needs to have needs to be something that's fair for everyone. Yeah, you'll only get there if you talk about it in the early days before things, go to shit later. So,
yeah. Communication is key.
Yeah, and I suppose we're probably dragging the chain a bit ourselves with the farm. But the kids, all the kids know is whatever it is, we're all going to have fun, and whoever's working in it will get paid. And if the business, like I said, if the business can't afford it, the business can't afford it, So, and if everyone's got that mentality, the business will succeed, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Andrew. It's been really wonderful to catch up and to share your story.
No, thank you. And thank you for all the coaching us through, and listening to our ideas and, probably not being real clear and helping us sort of clarify that, and it is a process it's a pretty damn good process that, you've got a process to follow to help us. Yeah, you've done an amazing job, so yeah, I'm forever grateful for the farm owner. Yeah, business or their structure. It's been a game changer. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
And there you have it, folks. A pretty interesting insight. Thank you, Marina, on how Andrew and Kerry and the Hepworth Beef family team have scaled from 100 cattle on agistment to an intensive beef and mixed farming operation now supporting 2,500 cows and trades. It's an amazing story, and I think, Andrew, you're very humble in how you've responded to Marina's comments, but the level of intent and commitment you've shown to your own mindset and your own development, the way you've enrolled and aligned your family, the rigor around your strategic planning, the analysis you've done beyond our benchmarking to make sure that you're making strong decisions, the structure, the discipline, the systems you've put in place, and just how you've developed in your leadership ability is just such a great example of what's possible for really leaning into the FOA Platinum Mastermind program. We're delighted to have you and Kerry and your family part of our alumni. Congratulations on all you've achieved. Marina, thank you for sharing their story. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Profitable Farmer podcast by Farm Owners Academy. If you're new to this show, be sure to follow us. If you've been a long-time listener, let your friends know about us or come continue the conversation in the Profitable Farmer Facebook group. All the best as you grow your business and create your freedom farm. Until next time, keep being incredible.